Today is Wednesday, November 27th. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And I'm just wondering if the Cowboys feel thankful they're not in nearly as bad a shape as are their Thursday opponent, the New York Giants.
Are all financial advisors fiduciaries? Fewer than you think. Not knowing could reduce your lifestyle. Hi, I'm Mitch Kramer, founder and CEO of Fluent Financial. A fiduciary is a regulatory term to reduce conflicts of interest in wealth management. A fiduciary always works in your best interest. A non-fiduciary advisor might put their compensation or company ahead of yours. At Fluent Financial, we are certified financial planners acting as fiduciary advisors. To learn more, go to fluentfinancial.com or Fluent Financial's YouTube channel.
In 1993, Bob opened the original Bob's Steak and Chop House on Lemon Avenue. 32 years later, the original Bob still greets you at the original Bob's. And now his sparkling new Bob's at Craig Ranch has opened in McKinney. Same fantastic beef and fresh seafood at these two Bob's, each run by the Bob's Steak and Chop House. If there were a misery index in the NFL, entering Sunday's game in Washington, the Cowboys would have been picking number 1, 2, or 3 in the misery draft. But then, as 10.5-point underdogs, they stunned Washington. But now, compared to tomorrow's foe in their Thanksgiving Day game, the New York Giants, the Cowboys are on a virtual joyride. These Giants are one of 3 teams in the National Football League with only 2 wins. The other 2 are Jacksonville and, of course, the Raiders. Right now, by strength of schedule, which is the tiebreaker in the NFL, the Giants would have the number 1 pick in next spring's NFL draft. And there they would doubtless, or if they pick 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, pick a quarterback and start over at that position, just like they did 6 years ago when they chose Daniel Jones number 1. Jones' tenure as the Giants quarterback hasn't gone so well. Benched last week, then asked for his release and got it. And he's now out on the free agent market. Meanwhile, the Giants are trying to find somebody who'll lead them back to the playoffs, which happened once during Jones' tenure. But quarterback is just one spot in which these Giants are having to deal with problems. The New York Giants brass, a few weeks ago, despite their slow start, said head coach Brian Daboll would be back next year for his 4th year at the helm. But the Giants haven't won since that announcement. Daboll won 9 games and made the playoffs his first year. Then he dropped to 6 wins last year. This year, the Giants might win 2 or 3 games. Would that faith in Daboll remain after perhaps a 3-14 record? Remember, the previous 3 Giants head coaches before Daboll all lasted exactly 2 years. Then last week, Jones went away, and Daboll elevated number 3 quarterback Tommy DeVito to be the starter, which led to number 2 quarterback Drew Lock expressing public exasperation. Then, in DeVito's first home start Sunday, in his first start of the entire year, the Giants fell behind Tampa 30-0. Then, their number 1 pick in last year's draft, stud wide receiver Malik Nabers, threw a total hissy fit about not having one pass thrown his way in the first half of that defeat to Tampa when the Giants were struggling mightily to move the football. And after the game, multiple Giants players said publicly that they thought many of their teammates were soft. Let me tell you something. In pro football, soft is one of the very worst things you can say about somebody. And other team members suggested other players on the club may have quit on the club. Well, Coach Daboll then had to spend some time putting out those fires. So it's this happy-go-lucky bunch that arrives at AT&T Stadium to play the Cowboys on Thursday. And by the way, they're not sure if their new quarterback, DeVito, can start because he got so banged up in the Tampa game. Geez, all of a sudden, it doesn't seem all that bad to be a Cowboy fan. Next, good news for the Mavericks, a slow start in baseball free agency, and remembering the big boy.
You know Volvo's reputation for building beautiful, long-lasting cars. Well, Crest Volvo Cars, located at 121 on the Tollway in Frisco, has over 300 brand-new Volvos at terrific prices. And there's also that hard-to-find low interest available. When you're at Crest Volvo, say howdy to General Manager Mike Brusen. Then test drive your favorite Volvo. Crest Volvo, off 121 on the Tollway in Frisco.
You know, many folks, including the Mavericks themselves, seem disappointed with the team's 10 wins, 8 loss start. That is the 9th best record in the NBA West, and the Mavericks are only one game out of falling out of the playoff positions in the West. But there's a lot of silver linings here. Of the Mavericks' 8 defeats, 7 have come by 7 points or less. And they've had a lot of injuries. The entire starting lineup, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Derek Lively, and P.J. Washington, have all missed games. Between the 5 of those, they've missed a total of 15 games. Now the free agents, Thompson, Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, Spencer Dinwiddie, all seem to be starting to fit in pretty well. Marshall has been exceptionally sharp at replacing the departed free agent forward Derek Jones. Maxi Kleber, very useful player off the bench, missed the first 9 games to injury, but he's rounding into form. Kyrie Irving is shooting lights out. Jaden Hardy, the backup guard, looks like he may be ready to take an increased role on this team. And this team, it's out-rebounding its opponents. Yes, a Maverick team that's winning the rebounding battle. They're also out-shooting their opponents from both 2-point and 3-point range. And the Mavericks have more steals and more blocks per game. The record may be just 10-8, but there's a lot to like about what's happening with the Mavericks. Next, it is bizarre how slow the off-season free agent market has been for baseball. In fact, there's only one team that's been active so far, and that's the Los Angeles Angels, who've added a solid outfielder in Jorge Soler, a really solid starting pitcher, and Yusei Kikuchi, and a nice backup catcher DH first baseman in Travis d'Arnaud. What's more, there aren't even any real rumors that the market's heating up. But lots of teams have begun more and more to sit on their money in the offseason, waiting for prices to come down. There hasn't been that immediate flurry of spending out there in the marketplace. Perhaps many teams looking for pitching are waiting for the bidding war to begin on Japanese star Roki Sasaki. And the Rangers are one of several teams trying to get their foot in that door. And finally, last Saturday, former Major League outfielder Rico Adolfo Jacobo Cardy, a former Ranger, passed away at age 85 from intestinal ailments. It was Cardy who nicknamed himself the Big Boy, and he was a big boy, by the way, and he would tell us that he was also a general in the Dominican Republic Army. That really you can't find to be true, but that's what Rico told us. He was perhaps the happiest player I've ever run across. But, the funny thing is, he also wound up as a bit of a reputation of a troublemaker on other teams. But the Big Boy could hit. A career .299 hitter, the 1970 batting champion of the National League. Injuries may have kept Rico Cardy from being a Hall of Famer. He had a massive knee injury that really cut time out of his career. And then he missed a year with tuberculosis. One of the first stars from the Dominican Republic, that baseball crazy nation. I crossed paths with Cardy in his 1 year with the Rangers, and at spring training in Pompano Beach, Florida. The Rangers wanted to shoot small advertisements, commercials, promotions for each of the stations who would be showing the team's games on the Rangers network back then. Remember, the Rangers weren't very good back then, so the Rangers wanted to be really good to the stations around the region that showed their games. So they asked me to do this for them, to produce all these spots, these promotions, and then the Rangers would send them off to each of their individual network partners. And the Rangers that offseason had acquired two big names, first baseman Mike Epstein and the Big Boy, Rico Cardy. Now, here was the deal. The script was the same for every one of the promotions, except at the end, you had to mention the station's name and the city the station was in. Now, we had everything up on cue cards. That wasn't the problem. But the fact that English was Rico's second language did present some problems. Now, he was okay. He could make himself understood. But when it came to these spots, well, he breezed through the stations in Austin and Waco and San Antonio. But there was one that caused Rico a big problem. He would read his script like, "Hi, I'm Rico Cardy, the Big Boy, and I hope all of you will watch us this year on station." And then we had a separate cue card for the stations, call letters, and the market. Rico breezed through a bunch of these pretty darn well until he came to KTAL in Shreveport, Texarkana. The Big Boy, it did not come out of his mouth well. So we cut. We tried it again. And we cut, and we tried it again. And the Big Boy just couldn't get it down. So after I'd say to Rico, just say after me, Shreveport, Texarkana. Shreveport, Texarkana. Well, Rico stumbled again and again and again, and I think it was perhaps our 8th, 9th, 10th try at getting this one promo shot that Rico read the opening and then said, "We hope you'll watch us this year on KTAL, Shreveport, Texarkana." Ha! Got you covered. And the station ran the promotion exactly that way, with Cardy saying at the end of his promotion, "Ha! Got you covered." I'll miss the big boy. There are some good memories there of my time as a young reporter crossing paths with Rico Cardy.
Today's episode brought to you by Fluent Financial, Retire Sooner, Better Lifestyle. And by Crest Cars. There's good, there's better, and then there's Crest. And by Bob's Steak and Chop House.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Just Wondering with Norm Hitzges. If you enjoyed what you heard, please hit follow, and a fresh new episode will be delivered to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you know someone who might enjoy our work, please share it with them. I'm Norm Hitzges, and I'm always just wondering about something.
And I'm Mary Hitchkus, and I'm just wondering too.